Hey there, welcome to Conley's Cool ESL. In this video, we're going to talk about some teacher stuff. We're going to talk about co-teaching. Yeah, co-teaching. Dun dun dun, dun 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 dun. I'm a co-teacher. I've co-taught with all sorts of different personalities and in different content areas. And I've also had different kinds of class loads too in terms of how many co-teachers I might have in a day. So I wanted to share some possible issues and then some tips for you as well to ease the whole co-teaching process. Let's get started. The first issue people run into when they're co-teaching is just sheer personalities. Our personalities don't match. Yeah, a lot of people's personalities don't necessarily match, and some of those people get married. Yeah, it's crazy, but you are just working during the day with this person, and sure, you might be an extrovert, they might be an introvert. You're going to have to work together. We can all work together in this scenario. Sure, there might be some catastrophic ones out there, but overall, we can figure out some ways to build some bonding. So let's go on to the next one. The second issue that people run into is, I don't have any time to co-plan. Yes, co-planning can be difficult to find. A lot of schools, the scheduling is difficult. You can't always have people share prep time at the same time. So, common problem, don't worry about it. We've got a solution for that. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3, different types of classroom management. Yeah, we all have different ideas of how to run a classroom, and sometimes two people might not have the same management styles. So what do, right? We'll talk about some different ways that you could, possibly a different way that you can adjust just walking into a co-teaching relationship and then move on from there. Let's go on to number 4. Number 4, you're starting to co-teach. No one is addressing who is doing what in the classroom. Maybe someone's doing too much work. Yeah, it happens. Some people who are content teachers are just used to teaching outright. And then other people might not be as used to jumping into someone else's class. Natural, totally natural. Somebody wants to continue doing what they're doing. Another person's now in that room and trying to work with the person, trying to jump in. It might feel a little uncomfortable. And so roles is a big issue when you start to co-teach. Let's go on to number 5. One of those co-teaching issues that I think always comes up is what happens when someone is absent. This is a co-teaching relationship. So if someone's absent, what do you observe happening? Is that other co-teacher picking up where you left off? Are you both on the same page? These are common things that happen. Are you preparing for a sub or are you preparing for your co-teacher when you're out? So we'll talk about that as we move into the next part. Here are some tips and solutions, possibly, for you. First big tip if you're co-teaching, and what I like to call, grab a pop or two. Might be wobbly pops, might be good pops, who knows, but you should grab a pop with that other person because you got to bond a little bit. You have to know the other person, get to know them, take some time out, meet up with them outside of school even, and just talk. Bond with them because this is a person you're going to have to work with all year. And sure, if you're co-teaching with 4 or 5 different people, that's a lot of pops. And I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting that you try to meet up with someone out there who you might be co-teaching with because it'll give you confidence overall in co-teaching because you're building that relationship. That's like a step 1 thing. I haven't done it with every co-teacher, but I can tell you that where I have, it's gone pretty well. At day 1 in school, it's a better rapport because we both have at least a little understanding of each other and each other's personalities. So let's go on to a next tip. Next tip is to read up on co-teaching. Yeah, you just can't walk into co-teaching and just start co-teaching. Sometimes it helps to read a little research into the matter. I'm going to point out 2 people, Honigsfeld and Dove, who have written a ton about co-teaching models, different ways that you can do co-teaching in the classroom. There's like a ton of different ways you can do it. There's not just one way. You might vary. It might be only one or two different ways in your first year of co-teaching together. It's okay, but you should read up on it first before you jump to conclusions of what co-teaching should necessarily look like. Let's move on to the next one. On day one, try to develop a joint management system. What do I mean by that? You have different rules in the classroom. You should probably hash that out with the teacher before you walk in. What you don't want to necessarily happen is a good cop, bad cop scenario. You gotta make it look like you're both on the same team. Even if you have little disagreements, it's okay, but walk in having an understanding of what the rules are in that classroom. It might be just an email, it might be a conversation, it might be a 2-hour meeting to hash that out, but it is something very important on day one so that you can address and know the rules in the classroom. What we don't want is inconsistent enforcement of typical classroom management, and with both people on the same page, mitigates those kinds of situations. I would suggest if you're the co-teacher going into another person's classroom, I would compare that to you're entering someone else's home. It's their comfort zone, right? And I would suggest to stick with their rules first if they're effective rules. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And here, that's what I would recommend for day one. If there are changes that need to be made, let's make them, but let's do it slowly. If it is something where the management system is fine. If it is a catastrophic management system and things aren't going right at all, well, maybe that should be a week one conversation, because what we don't want is for those two different management styles to collide in one classroom. The kids won't know what's right or wrong, what they should do or shouldn't do, what the procedure should be. There's a lot of protocols that some teachers like to have in the classroom, and so you definitely want to have that joint management system. So let's go into the next part. For the next one, those who co-plan together, co-teach together. What does that mean? It means you definitely need to find a way to co-plan with that other teacher. But how am I going to have time to co-plan? Yes, exactly. It's difficult to find time to co-plan. So if you can't meet in person, let's try to meet digitally. You know, I've texted other co-teachers, I email other co-teachers. You can even set up a Google Doc or perhaps Word Online file. Yes, I said Office 365. Word Online, Google Docs, I don't care, but have something out there on the internet for the both of you to collaborate. If it's a lesson plan, perfect. If it's just an idea of lesson outline, that's okay too. And maybe you're just trying to explain a particular activity you want to run in the classroom. Have that space online to share and collaborate. You're only free at your certain times, and you have to accept that. So the only way to fix that is to have some sort of place on the internet in order to collaborate. Without that, it can be really difficult to have any sort of co-planning or co-teaching. The left hand won't know what the right hand is doing. So, biggest tip, collaborate online. Let's go to the next one. If you are that ENL or special ed or any other kind of co-teacher entering that content teacher's classroom, here's a big recommendation for you. They're putting you together because they want both sides of the expertise, the content and perhaps special ed or ENL or ESL. They want you guys all together. How is that going to work? Well, sometimes you might have to model. You might have to demonstrate an activity. To just put it all on the co-teacher might not be a great idea. So after co-planning, I would also suggest to offer to model ideas. So if you're both talking about what you should do in the classroom, step up and make sure to model. That content teacher quite often feels like they have to do everything. Take the load and the burden off of them and take a step up and just say, hey, I want to model in an activity. That's going to build trust between you and the other person. As well, it's going to give you some authority in the classroom because the students are going to see you leading. And that's really important when you're entering someone else's classroom and it's their home. And you might look like a guest in the beginning in their classroom. So for you to step up and say, hey, I want to model an activity that you both agree upon, that's big props, and that's a big step in the right direction for a positive relationship in co-teaching. Let's move on to another example. Another tip I would say is to reflect with the teacher. Don't just walk out of the classroom if you're changing classes. Make sure to send that text, that email. Talk near the end of class somehow if they're doing a particular activity, just to hash out some ideas of what you saw, observed, and what went well and what didn't. Have that positive discourse happening in your classroom, or else there's going to be a lot of, I don't trust this other teacher in the room. I can't rely on this other teacher. So please, by all means, talk. And that could be by text, email, collaborating online with a Google Doc or Word online file, just talking to the other person in the hallway, or meeting up for a couple pops. All that stuff works to help reflect and move on, and it makes your whole class better. Except that this is a forced marriage. Getting back to that issue of personalities colliding, yeah, this is a work relationship. You're going to have to work with that other person for a long time. And you might not agree on everything, but you know what? At the end of the day, the kids need to learn, and you both are there on purpose because of your expertise. So it's time to work together and find ways and common ground where you both can work together. It might not be easy at first. You might offer ideas and they might shoot it down. That sometimes happens. And for the next tip, yes, again, this is a forced marriage in the classroom. Your kids are going to sniff it out if they see that the two of you don't like each other. So as much as possible, try to meet with that person, try to find a common ground, and try to collaborate and model, because it's so important that the two of you are on the same team. Let's go on to the last tip. Co-teaching takes time. This isn't a 1 month thing and all of a sudden it's the coolest co-teaching scenario that ever happened. It's okay. Generally, research suggests that it takes about 3 years for a great co-teaching relationship to come to fruition. And over that time, you're going to go through situations where you like each other, where you hate each other, where things are going well, where things aren't going well, where you're going to explore different ways of co-teaching, different kinds of scenarios, whether you're parallel teaching or maybe you're just supporting students in the classroom. It all comes together, but it takes time. And the most I can say is you have to be patient and you have to keep moving forward. Even if your year goes great or even lukewarm, I would say talk to your administrator, ask and see if you can work with that person another year, because it probably will get better. You'll have already made a lot of decisions through the first year that the second year is going to be a lot easier, and you'll be able to improve from there. So don't give up after that first year, and make an effort to stick around for multiple years, because it's just going to help the two of you grow as one awesome classroom and co-teaching pair. You might not be Batman and Robin, but you're certainly going to kick some butt in the classroom. So I'm Greg Conley. Thanks for watching Conley's Cool ESL. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.